I'm getting me. How about Ryan? Can you say something? Can you turn on? Maybe that'll.
Check, check, check.
Yep, I got Ryan. If that helps you.
Oh, wait, I don't like it. All right.
Start again.
Yes, probably. There we go. Okay. Now I'm there.
There you go.
All right. You want to just hard start over? Okay. Stand by.
The following is a presentation of the FC Dallas Radio Network.
Abbreviated pregame show here on the FC Dallas Radio Network. Appreciate everybody joining us here on the Burncast as we work through our various bugs and glitches here. It's preseason for all of us, folks, as it always is. Before we bring in our commentary team for this afternoon, it'll be Ryan Figert and Steve Davis, the voices of FC Dallas. Let's go ahead and get you the starting lineups for both sides, starting with the home side, FC Dallas. It's Michael Colodi in net for the Burn today. Herman Johansson, Sebastian Ibiaga, Osaze Urguide, and Shaq Moore. Bernard Kamungo, your back five. Ramiro Benetti, Kaike, and Christian Kappas, your midfield. And the perfect Parrington, Peter Musa, Logan Farrington up top. Meanwhile, for the visiting Five Stripes, it's Lucas Hoyas in net. Ronald Hernandez, Stian Gregerson, Jan Barakal, and Toto Majub on the back line there. You got Cooper Sanchez, Tomas Jacob, and Steven Alzade. Miguel Almiron wears the captain's armband for the Three Stripes, along with Emmanuel Latte-Lot and Saba Lobjanitse. As we bring in the voices of today's broadcast, it's Ryan Figert and Steve Davis. And Steve, we got one more of these things before we get ready for the real thing. What are you looking forward to today as we've got one last little dress rehearsal for Dallas?
Yeah, hi, Sam. It's great to be here again with you and with Ryan. Just a couple of things, it's still a preseason game, so everything personnel-wise, team-wise, the risk-reward calculation will be a little different, especially as it's going to be a little slick on the field today. The rain that we know is coming all day is sort of just starting now. But just a couple of things. I haven't seen a lot of Herman Johansson, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he could give this team. I think he's going to be a really good signing, so looking forward to seeing that. Looking forward to seeing Osaze Urguide. I don't think he's had the best preseason, but I think he's a guy who understands, when the whistle really blows for real. I think we'll see him. And then Michael Colodi in goal. It's a little different now when you are the starter, when you come in and won the job. So just looking forward to seeing how he handles all that.
Yeah, and for me, this is as close to live action as we're going to get in terms of Dallas putting out a very strong 11, probably resembling what we're going to see against Toronto in a week's time. On the Atlanta side, maybe a couple names we didn't expect to see, some younger guys getting the start for Tata Martino, but for Dallas, this feels very first choice. And I agree. Johansson is exciting to see what he can do up and down the right side. But, it's been about Musa and Farrington. It's been about Musa and Farrington all preseason and then that run last season as well when they started starting up top together. So it's always fun to watch those two guys, whether it's an official game or not.
And while we're not totally sure how long the starters will play, there is a decent amount of subs available for Eric Quill in this preseason game. 11 to be exact. That's Anderson Julio, Ricky Lewis, Caleb Swan, Nolan Norris, Lucius Don Dietzen, Ron Benjamin, Alvaro Augusto, Sam Sarver, Patrick Sindogado, Lalo Sabubakar, and Brooks Thompson, who we expect to be the third goalkeeper this year. He's on loan from USL Lexington. And, Ryan, a kind of an interesting situation here. We've been talking all preseason about the wingback situation in particular. Well, we've got Ricky Lewis here. We've got Dietzen here. You've even got Sam Sarver, who has kind of turned into something like that. And I think that's a really curious situation about what Eric Quill has to work with there.
Yeah, I think they all offer something a little bit different, whether you want an inverted player like Dietzen coming off the right onto his favorite left foot, whether you want somebody that just has the blazing speed of Sam Sarver down the outside and can threaten in behind. We've seen how just effective he can be. It's not always the prettiest when it's Sam Sarver, but he'll knock it past you and run. He'll put the ball into the box. He'll win a penalty like he did in the last preseason game here in Toyota Stadium last Saturday against New York. So all kinds of different options. I think they see Herman Johansson as the complete package, but when you need something a little bit different late in the game, he'll have options in those wingback spots, Steve.
Well, I'll tell you what, you can't learn a lot from these preseason games, but you can always learn something. One of the things we're going to learn, Ryan, is what is the preferred order coming off the bench for Eric Quill. And wingback is a position I think we're all sort of looking at saying, well, did Sam Sarver do enough? He comes into every game. He makes moments. Where's Dietzen, or where are they going to play him? Is it going to be more up front? Is it going to be more as a wingback? What is the ordering off the bench at the wingback spot?
And meanwhile, this is kind of the last opportunity, Steve, for guys to really make an impression. As you see, we've got about 20-plus guys on the roster today Who do you think, be it a starter or a bench guy, needs to come out and maybe give himself a little bit more as the regular season nears?
I'll go right back to those wingbacks. Bernie Kamungo is the incumbent there, but man, Ricky Lewis, as we mentioned, he had a great preseason. Dietzen, I love the way he goes aggressively on the attack, goes at defenders one-on-one. So, and I just said, Sam Sarver makes things happen. So I think any of the wingbacks can still make a big impression today.
And Ryan, you were in Portugal with the squad. Is there somebody that maybe fans are going to tune in today and maybe they've heard about or maybe they've been read about on FCDallas.com or through the socials that, hey, this is going to be someone you're going to want to keep your eye on as we go through the broadcast today?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sticking with Ricky Lewis. I think he's the one that has the most unknown to him, and he's got so much potential. We know that Dallas traded all the way up to the number 2 spot in the super draft order to select him, and so far that looks like a good pick with the output he's had during preseason, scoring, assisting, winning penalties, showing a little bit of everything with his athleticism, but also ability to play in multiple spots, play as the wingback and also play as a 9, and I think that type of versatility means he's going to have a spot on the Dallas bench, if not in the starting 11 all year long.
And something that's a little curious here as we look at the midfield for Dallas, it's Ramiro, Ka'ike, and Christian Kappas, and we expect that it's probably going to be Kappas playing that more advanced 10. We saw that, Steve, at the end of the season, although we did see in Portugal at times Ka'ike maybe took that spot with Kappas dropping back. That's a little bit different than what we expected. Obviously, Joaquin Valente was signed yesterday by the club. I think that's his probably spot long-term in theory. But until he gets everything settled, it's interesting to see the Houston native come in there and play that 10's position.
Yeah. So I think what we should mention there is it's really not the 10 position. It's one of the 10 positions because the way they've done it in preseason, we'll see as they line up here in a minute. Whereas last year there were 2 holding midfielders screening the defense. This year it's only been 1, and then he has 2 players in advance of him. So they sort of inverted the triangle to steal the term of a big book there. So it plays more like it would be more like a 4-3-3 midfield setup. Of course, we know it's 5 along the back, so a little different there. But yes, Kappas and Ka'ike will both sort of have the same role in the team ahead of the screening midfielder.
And Ryan, one of the things that is featured a lot in the Portugal games, a lot of goals. This was not a team that down the stretch, they were very good defensively, but their goal scoring at times could be a little inconsistent. That's been the exact opposite this year, where specifically in the second half of games, they have been lighting up opponents.
Yeah, statistically 16 goals in 5 games so far, just over 3 per contest. I mean, beating Portimonense 4-0, beating a younger Brøndby side 5-2, but then also against 2 MLS sides, 3-1 against RSL, 3-2 against New York Red Bulls. When you've got Farrington, you've got Musa up top, and you're supplying them the ball consistently, especially from the wide areas with the wingbacks, you know there are going to be goals there. And like I said earlier, it's always exciting when those two are up top together. The goals have been coming in preseason, and I think Eric Quill wants to now make sure that they're stingy at the back. He always uses that term, stingy at the back. Defend the box well, stop crosses, use the 3 center backs to be aerially efficient as well, and strike on set pieces. This is a really tall team. They have a lot of different routes to goal, particularly adding a 6'3" Swedish wingback into the mix as well, with Kappas and Musa and the center backs. A lot of aerial ability in there as well, so a lot of avenues to score, Sam.
Go ahead, Steve.
Stingy at the back, but I think what we've seen in the preseason, stingy up front too. You know, he wants them pressing a little bit higher this year, winning the ball in more advanced positions, playing the game a little bit more in the opposition half.
Well, the players are coming out on the field. Dallas in last year's kit, the blue, red.
Atlanta's let us down. They showed us the shorts, the jersey shorts, the light blue. But they've got the training tops up top, so we're just going to have to do a lot of guesswork, I think.
That's going to be a lot more difficult for Ryan and Steve than it will be for me. But players are out on the field. We're about to get started, so we'll take a break. And when we come back, Ryan and Steve will get you ready for the first half of action here between FC Dallas and Atlanta United FC.
At Toyota, we don't just build trucks. We build something that's meant to last. That's why the 2026 Tundra is built to tough it out and to take it easy. Built to carry tradition and to make new ones. Built stronger, built louder, built here. The 2026 Toyota Tundra. Built in Texas, driven everywhere. Test drive at your local Toyota dealer or visit Toyota.com today. Toyota, let's go places. Feature availability differs based on trim. See Toyota.com for details.
It's a moment when I show up, God, I'm saying wow. Welcome to the world of WinStar, the casino of FC Dallas, where 10,000 electronic games, plus roulette, craps, and blackjack is just the beginning. Get lost in our 2-story luxury spa, rest in one of our vast hotel towers, and catch the biggest names in music and comedy at the spectacular Lucas Oil Live, all just 1 hour north of DFW. So come live in the wow at the world of WinStar.
God, I'm saying wow.
Want to hear something incredible? That's Eleanor. Just 10 hours after being born, Eleanor was airlifted to Children's Health and met by our expert team trained in cardiac and critical care. At 4 days old, she received a stent to help her heart pump blood to the rest of her body. And today, she's a happy, healthy 1-year-old. That's incredible. That's Children's Health. Incredible together.
UT Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas, Texas, where discoveries change lives. The spark of collaboration that fuels bold thinking in our labs. The spark of inspiration that motivates greatness in the next generation. And the spark of innovation that pushes the boundaries of today's care. At UT Southwestern, teamwork and talent combine to fuel discovery, education, and healing. UT Southwestern, the future of medicine sparks here.
Well, welcome you back to Toyota Stadium. Just over a minute from kickoff in this Torneo de Texas finale, the preseason finale for both of these sides as MLS play beckons a week from today. It's FC Dallas and Atlanta United, now led by their former boss, Tata Martino, looking to wrap up preseason. Both of these sides looking to wrap up preseason with a win. They're going through their final paces of the warm-up, Steve, but we've seen 5 preseason matches for FC Dallas, four times in the win column, a reserve side sort of rotated team losing to Houston last week, on Wednesday in the middle of the week, but looking to bounce back today in preseason in the win column.
And you've sort of called out the 2 guys that have been scoring the goals and scoring the goals over the years now, Better Musa and Logan Farrington. So see good things coming from them today, and overall just looking forward to seeing a team that has a little bit more structure in possession, in the build-out than what we saw last year when they were just trying to do whatever they could to scrap together the points near the end of the season, ultimately making the playoffs because they did it that way. But this year, a little bit more possession, a little bit more structure in the enterprise. Yeah,
we're about to get things underway, but if you're just joining us, the 11 for Dallas: Michael Colodi, Herman Johansson, Sebastian Ibiaga, Osaze Urgide, Shaq Moore, Bernard Kamungo, Ramiro, Kaique, Christian Kappas, Petter Musa, and Logan Farrington. On the Atlanta side, Lucas Hoyos, Ronald Hernandez, Stian Gregerson, Juan Berrocal, Toto Mahub, Cooper Sanchez, Thomas Jacob, Steven Alzate, Miguel Almiron, Emmanuel Latelat, and Saba Lobjanite. Emmanuel Latelat coming in with goals in back-to-back preseason games for Atlanta United. He started hot last year, a big price tag. Didn't quite live up to it over the course of the season, but we know he'll be one threatening for Atlanta United tonight as he shakes hands briefly with Kaique, and we're about to get things going here from Toyota Stadium. Well, what we also know is that under Tata Martino, probably a good chance to get the most out of somebody like Latelat. Well, we are underway as Farrington drops it off to Michael Colodi. Now the incumbent starter in the Dallas net with Martin Pa's departure in the offseason. He goes long immediately towards Musa. Tangle up there between Gregerson and Musa to help each other back to their feet as Dallas maintains possession along the left side. Farrington into Musa. First time ball bounced towards Ramiro is a little bit loose, but he cleans it up, getting it back to Shaq Moore, who's on the right side of the back 3 today. Immediately out to Herman Johansson, the new Swedish wingback, looking to make an impression for the first time on U.S. soil. Cuts back near the corner flag, fires it back towards Shaq Moore. Moore thought about the cross, instead finds Kaique, who's popped wide right here. Back to Shaq Moore. Fitting it through the lines towards Kappas. It's broke for Kaique, corner the 18 on the far side. Eventually, Atlanta able to work it clear all the way back to their new goalkeeper, Lucas Hoyos, the experienced Argentine, sends it clear. Ibiaga wins the header, up into the air. Farrington banging bodies there with Ronald Hernandez, whistled for a foul, a soft foul against the big dog that time. Good example there of how this is preseason as the rain gets a little bit heavier here. Over a second ago on the right side, FC Dallas creates a little 3v2 overload there. Atlanta not really doing very well on their defensive rotations. And then again, Dallas not really doing very well at recognizing they had that overload and
maybe could have done something with it. Eventually, comes
here's
not
Musa
much.
picking the pocket of the Atlanta player in the middle of the field. Unable to turn it into anything meaningful there. Farrington puts the pressure on Hoyas as Atlanta try and play out of the back, and this time more successfully. Put it over the top for Latte Loth and his speed. Kolodi way out off his line, able to read it well. And still battling with Latte Loth in the middle of the field. He's giving it away here. The net is empty for Dallas. Almiron just sends it skyward to some sarcastic applause from the few gathered at Toyota Stadium today as Kolodi was rushing back to his line and got back in time.
We'll talk about that one in a minute, Ryan.
Now with Almiron here along the near side. Musa defending. Out along the right. Kamungo forces it back. Almiron combining in the middle of the field. Fired through the lines, finds Almiron, looking for Latte Loth, chipped in behind for the run of Lobjanite. Well marshaled that time by Osaze Irigide and picked up by Kolodi.
So a minute ago, Kolodi was great in his starting positioning, aggressive, coming out to intercept that ball at 35 yards off his line. What he's got to do, though, there is just recognize that's not the time to try to be playmaker and pick out a pass. He's got to clear that ball out of the city of Frisco somewhere. So he sort of dwelled on it, got it taken off his foot, and that's just something a young goalkeeper has to learn. There are times when you can make the pass, times when you just got to clear the danger.
Well, the great irony of this game being moved up an hour to try and avoid the rain, and then the rain subsequently falling in droves as soon as the ball was first played at kickoff. It is absolutely pouring in Frisco as Ibeaga stands with no pressure on him. Swinging it over to Urigide, now closed down by Latte Loth. Out to Shaq Moore. Looking for options. He's going to be forced back to Kolodi. Receives it under pressure from Latte Loth. Finds Urigide. Urigide cuts away from the defender there. And Shaq Moore will send it in behind. Herman Johansson making the run. The Atlanta center backs with a significant head start get there first and get it back towards Hoyos.
Yeah, several of these Atlanta players a little less familiar to even we MLS nerds because under Tata Martino and after a disappointing year last year, just a little bit of a reshaping of the roster.
Hoyos launching this one high into the pounding rain. Kamungo wins the header, nodding it back towards Urigide, and Dallas will have a moment of comfortable possession here as we've played 4 minutes.
Big shout, though, to the fans that are out there in their ponchos and just kind of taking it in the rain.
Well, there's a giveaway there between Shaq Moore and Ramiro. Ramiro wearing the armband for Dallas, commits the foul, and it's going to be an attacking set-piece opportunity for Atlanta. Almiron across to pick up the ball. Just the 4th contest in preseason for Atlanta United, 6th for Dallas. Atlanta coming off a 3-2 win here at Toyota Stadium on Wednesday. Dallas coming off their lone defeat in preseason on Toyota Soccer Center Field 1, just a few hundred yards away. Whipped in by Almiron here. First contact made by Kappas and sent clear. Kamungo chasing, beaten to it there. Almiron out wide left. I'll swing it here through the center backs.
Good job by Dallas there of clearing the lines and getting immediate pressure so Atlanta can't do something on that second phase.
And I think we've got bad news.
Yeah, I think we do too.
Everyone here in the pouring rain, everyone tuned in as the referee has brought a quick halt to proceedings after just 5 minutes.
I wonder if there was lightning in the area, if that's what it was, or if it's just rain.
Well, everybody's clearing the premise, which makes me think there is going to be a lightning delay here. Thankfully, we do run a weekly podcast, and we do have some entertainment here for you on the YouTube stream. So we'll throw it to the FC Dallas agenda, recorded and dropped this week as we discussed Dallas's newest signings, the offseason, and plenty more. And hopefully we'll have updates for you. Follow along on both the Atlanta United and FC Dallas social media pages to know when we'll be back underway here at Toyota Stadium. Hello and welcome to the FC Dallas Agenda, episode 44, as we're just over a week away from the kickoff of the 2026 MLS season. We've got a ton to talk about. Since we last spoke, at least here on the podcast feed, we've had Martin Potts transferred to Ajax, Jonathan Sirois acquired in a trade from Montreal. We've had preseason games either side of the Atlantic, and we've dropped potentially the best kit in FC Dallas history On top of all of that, now we've signed Joaquin Valiente, a new attacking midfielder out of Uruguay. The excitement for the season is really ramping up, and we've got to talk about it. So we've got our usual panel of myself, Ryan Figert, alongside Garrett Melser and Steve Davis. We'll also be joined by FC Dallas Chief Scout and now regular guest on the agenda, Leo Baldo, in just a little bit, as well as we'll talk through Valiente, the offseason as a whole, and what they saw from him in the scouting process. But guys, now it's not just me who's seen FC Dallas play soccer in 2026. It is all three of us, and that is an exciting time of the year. Garrett, what are your first impressions of what you've seen from the team this early in the year?
Ooh, right off the bat. Well, it looks like they know who they want to be, much more so than last preseason, and really more so than the first 6 months of last year. We know the identity really evolved over the first half of 2025. And so it's nice to be starting with a foundation this year and trying to perfect it a little bit more than trying to figure out who they are. And so now we're seeing it. And like you said, it's all starting to get exciting. It's starting to feel real. I think every year in preseason, it's so thick and fast that you kind of get caught in the weeds a little bit. But once the new kit is announced, then I'm like, okay, it's pretty much go time. It's usually about with a week left before the season starts, and so now it's kind of hitting me, and I'm ready to go.
So I'll tell you what, a couple of things. I feel like they did have an identity toward the back half of last year. But the identity was scrappy, and on the one hand, it it can be enjoyable to watch to a point, right? Because you just enjoy watching the commitment, the determination to scrap out points. But aesthetically, it wasn't the best. Right now, I feel like what I'm watching, man, the structure with the ball just looks so much better. I'm seeing a team that still got that same scrappy identity, but the possession, the build out, the timing on the win, to then try to break lines with a pass. I just see a lot more of it right now. I'm still sort of missing some work in the final third, maybe. Doesn't mean players aren't sharp. It just maybe the possession in the first 2/3 of the field is a little bit better than in the ideas in the last third right now, although that's a lot about having not having a 10. The other thing that sort of hit me today, guys, as we're recording this on a Wednesday, we saw
was the rays of the sun very brutally into my skin is not quite ready
it's
to be sunburnt in February.
It's awesome though that it's out there like that, right? No, but
certainly hit me.
We saw the basically the sort of the second team out there, a little bit of a mix, but man, there's good depth on this team. That's that team that we saw today. Maybe a couple of spots notwithstanding, that would be a team that could grind out some points in Major League Soccer. That's the second team. I see real positional battles. I see spots where this guy or that guy could be effective. And if you look at this time last year, I think everybody was really just trying to figure out what did they even have out there. So that's just a couple of things I've noticed in the preseason.
Yeah, going back to our first episode in 2026, we kind of talked about what we wanted to see over the course of preseason. I think a lot of the things that we just said were in that list of things we wanted to see, right? Developing the identity. In the absence of, at that time, we thought it'd be a DP number 10 that would come in. It seems like now that's not going to be the case, but it's a new attacking midfielder coming in Joaquin Valiente, who we're going to talk about. But they built that identity, and now if you can sprinkle in that little bit of technical quality in the final third, the ability to stitch the attacks together with Valiente, hopefully, or whether it's Kappas playing that position, whoever it ends up being. Either way, I think we've seen them develop the identity and then hopefully adding on to that with the talent level rising from outside the squad. With we've hardly even got to see Herman Johansson so far in preseason as he had to go get his visa and he missed the last couple of preseason games here in Frisco. So lots to be excited about. I think we want to go through the player movements that we've had go on since we last spoke here on the feed. First one, and of course the biggest one, I think Martin Paz leaving the club. As at the very least a fan favorite, for some people certainly a legend of the club on and off the field. He departs for Ajax, which is his boyhood club. He told us he grew up, miles away from the stadium, kilometers away from the stadium in the Netherlands, I suppose. And he still owns a house right near the Johan Cruyff Arena. So it made a whole lot of sense for him to return home, to be close to his family, and to be playing for a team that he grew up supporting. And, ultimately, this all has a lot to do with Michael Colodi winning the starting job as well. I don't think Martin wanted to continue in the prime of his career, potentially fighting for starting minutes behind somebody else. He wanted to go and have a chance to go be the one somewhere. And for it to be Ajax, Garrett, it made a whole lot of sense, I think, for all parties involved.
Yeah, I think it's one of those happy instances where it's a transfer where it is good for all parties, and I think that's kind of rarely the case. Usually it's, one club is like, we got your best player, or, kind of thing like that. But this is a move where it makes a lot of sense for the player for all the reasons that you just said. It makes sense for Ajax to bring in, a talented up-and-coming goalkeeper who understands what Ajax is all about, knowing them, speaks the language and all that. So do you think it'd be a pretty seamless integration for him and for them? And then for FC Dallas, I mean, Michael Colodi won the goalkeeper job on merit last year. He had an opportunity in Martin's absence, and he came in, and he just played so well that Eric Quill couldn't drop him. And in a similar fashion, this is Michael Colodi's boyhood club, FC Dallas is. He was in the academy for a long time. He's from the area. He understands what it means to play for this club. And it's been a little while since we've had a homegrown goalkeeper, and so it's always great to see those success stories come about. So excited for everyone involved, and I think we're in safe hands with Michael Colodi, and really excited to see where he can go from here, because he had a fantastic debut season last year without knowing that he was really going to be thrown into that situation. But he took it in stride, and now I think he can even take another step up.
And while that all may be true, Steve, it is always sad to see a fan favorite go out the door, and nobody endeared themselves to the fans, I think, as a foreign player arriving here in Frisco more than Martin did.
There was a reason he was wearing the captain's armband for some of the time that he was here, and that's not easy to do as a goalkeeper, right? Look, he was just a fun guy to be around. He was a crowd favorite. He came in and showed everybody immediately, what he could do on the field. I remember a conversation with Andres Zanota going back. I believe it was his first. It was definitely Martin Paz's first year, and saying something about the fee to buy Martin, because at that time, he was I think he was just on loan as he got here, and Andre just so almost like rolled his eyes at me, and he said, "Steve, I don't even know what the fee is. I think it's around $1 million, but don't worry, it's going to happen." That wasn't that long into his tenure, and so the best of luck to him. And on Colodi, I tell you what's sort of interesting. Number one, it's one thing to say we are going to sort of refocus our efforts on the pipeline, academy in through North Texas SC and into the pros. It's another thing to actually do it, and another thing to actually see it at work. And the other thing is that that academy pipeline and through North Texas, sometimes we see these academies that they're really good at developing a certain kind of player. At FC Dallas, we've seen them develop strikers, Pereira and Pepe. We've seen them develop midfielders, going all the way back to Ulloa and Kellen Acosta and Tanner Tessman now, Weston McKinney. We've seen them develop defenders, Justin Che and Chris Richards came through here for a hot minute.
And Brian Reynolds.
A good shout there. Goalkeepers. This is a second academy goalkeeper that's going to be starting. So up and down the academy, more proof that what they're doing out there with the academy project is really cool.
And before we move on from Martin, I think this is a good time to insert his message to you, the listener, and to the FC Dallas fans.
I think it meant so much to me. The moment I came here it was still COVID bubble, I believe, and I can't remember how it was before I was in Dallas, right? I changed so much as a person in the right way, I believe, and to the whole community of Dallas, to the organization, the franchise, FC Dallas, to everyone who I've been involved with. Thank you so much for the last 4 years. It's been the most beautiful years of my life, I think. And I enjoyed every single minute of it. So thank you so much for all your support. And I'll be Dallas till I die.
And with Martin's absence, that meant there was a big vacancy in the goalkeeper room and only really Michael Colodi remaining. So they went out and quickly made moves in the intra-league MLS market to acquire Jonathan Sirois in a trade from Montreal for kind of really just pennies in allocation money, $75K in 2026, $75K in 2027. Incentives could take that up to, I think, a maximum of $300K or so. But Garrett, this is a young goalkeeper. This is a goalkeeper who has 3 years of starting experience in this league. and it's somebody who at the very least can push Michael Collodi as a number 2, and I'm sure he has eyes on wanting to get back a starting spot as well, as he had lost his gig in Montreal towards the back half of 2025.
Yeah, it really is, and it kind of seems like pennies on the dollar to get a player of his age with as much experience as he has in the league. So you know what you're going to get for him, and like you said, because he kind of lost his starting gig up there, you'd hope that he has a bit of a chip on his shoulder, and that fuels him to come here and really push Collodi for that number 1 spot. And goalkeeper depth can sometimes be hard to come by. Oftentimes you'll bring in a guy from a different league or a lower league or something, you don't really know what you have. I think Dallas is lucky that they're going to know exactly what they're getting, and it just seems like a really good deal from the front office to get this much experience in for what is a very, very low fee, at least on the face of it.
And this is a goalkeeper, Steve, that he was in the Canadian national team not too long ago as the number 3. He hasn't made his debut yet for his country, but clearly, highly rated in the Canadian ranks behind guys like Dane St. Clair.
Yeah, and he's not an easy guy to unseat, and yet Maxime Crépeau in there as well. Sirois had good and bad moments at Montreal, but as you said, the guy's got talent. He's only 24 years old, and the other thing is Montreal is a mess. And has
you never know. You never know what's going on up there.
Time, and so yeah, exactly. It looks like good players are there for a while, and then they're just begging to leave. And so I am anxious to see what Sirois can do in a better environment all the way around.
Yeah, and we should note that he hasn't been able to train yet with the team. We're hoping to get him integrated here in the coming weeks. Hence why there was a trialist in goal against Houston in the second half today after Michael Collodi played 90 minutes. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that Houston result in more in just a moment. But the big new signing that's come out just as soon as we drop this episode, coincidentally, maybe not, maybe well planned from us, but Joaquin Valiente coming in from Defensor, most recently of Barcelona SC in Ecuador, but he's a 24-year-old out of Uruguay, Garrett. He's left-footed, 5'5", so it's smaller in stature, but it has a big engine, as we'll hear Leo Baldo describe sort of his physical capacities. But we've seen some limited tape and what is available to us over the internet from the Ecuadorian League, from the Uruguayan League. What are your first impressions of Valiente and where you think he might slot in?
Yeah, I'll say YouTube scouting can really only take you so far. Anybody can look great in the YouTube clips, so it's really tough to know from our point of view. That's why we talked to Leo Baldos to get a little bit more information. But on the face of it, we know Dallas has quite a few midfielders right now, but they don't have anybody of this profile with almost kind of a number 10, a guy who is a forward-thinking, creative midfielder. Dallas has a ton of box-to-box guys, a lot of guys who are more on the defensive side of things. We've seen with Kappas playing the number 10, kind of out of position. I know you're kind of higher on the Kappas at the 10 spot than I am. I just like him so much more at the box-to-box role. He can do both, but I prefer him in his natural spot. So getting a player who fits naturally in that number 10 spot, who's going to be pulling the strings on the attacking end, it was a priority. It was a priority for this club. That's the kind of player that Eric Quill wants for this system, someone who can get the ball, link up play, and then find the strikers. We know Dallas' strength in this team is the 2 strikers in Logan Farrington and Petter Musa up top. So getting them the ball in dangerous spots is of the utmost importance, and the club really had to bring in a player of that ilk. And I know there's going to be talk about, it's not a DP because, that was kind of like the foretold thing. The open DP spot, open 10 spot makes a lot of sense. But I think don't worry so much about the labels. A good player cannot be a DP, and sometimes a DP it can be a disappointment, as we've seen all around the league many, many times. So I think it's a matter of waiting and seeing how he fits in. And we'll talk a little bit more about why the DP wasn't the right time to get this in a little bit. But right now I'm excited from what I've seen on YouTube, but more so it just makes sense that Dallas had to go get a player of this profile and see how he fits in and settles in, and then maybe look to fill that DP spot at a later date.
And Steve, we knew this move was going to happen as we were watching the game against Houston today, and I was sort of watching to see, okay, where is he going to slot in specifically? Why does his profile make sense? And I think something that really stood out to me is that the 10 in this formation tends to float to the left a lot. And Petter Musa or Logan Farrington drops off on the right side and creates on that side. But the attacking midfielder today, it was Patrickson with the starting group, and then Kappas in that last 30-minute period. They get out on the left side, and I just think that somebody with that a wand of a left foot, as is so often said, could really make an impact in finding those incisive passing angles into the strikers. That was just something I saw. Curious how you see, a profile like Valiente could fit into the team.
Yeah, well, I guess we really need to see the guy play before we talk too much about profiles and fits and things like that. I don't know, Ryan. I really think all the way around, as FC Dallas now is in a different position than they were at this time last year. Where last year at this time we're saying, a 6 or 7 finish, would be good. I think the ambition is a little bit higher this year. So that's when you start asking the questions like, it's not just about getting guys on the field, but getting them on the field in their best spots. So what I'm getting to here is, again, I sort of agree with Garrett that Kappas can play as a 10. But I think he's better as sort of an 8, sort of a little bit more of a connector guy. So again, in this case, it's not about getting him on the field and sort of asking him to play a role where he's only a 7 or 7.5. Let's get him on the field where he's an 8 or 8.5. So now you talk to me about Valiente. So without having seen him, I don't know whether he's better to drift left or drift right. It could be that if Leo sort of tells us, well, he's a guy that likes to arrive late in the penalty area. Well, that sounds like Sebastian Driussi in his better year with Austin. And is he a guy, if he's a guy that wants to arrive late and shoot and sort of is more of a second forward, then I don't mind if he's playing on the right side, and cutting into his left foot. If he's a guy that's, wanting to make he's more prone to make the line-breaking pass than arrive late in the penalty area, then maybe it is better to be on the left. How does he fit within the other pieces? I think is what's most important. Last year at this time, we'd be saying, okay, if he's one of the best 11 players, get him on the field, find a place for him. This year, I really believe it's Eric Quill having a better handle on his structure, on what players he has, what their best positions are, what their skill set is, and how they all complement each other. I absolutely did not answer your question, but
no, it was good. It was good. And I think the person that really needs to answer the question is the director of scouting, Leo Baldo. So let's go ahead and throw it to him in that interview. I sat down with him just moments ago. Well, Leo, it's your annual appearance here on the FC Dallas Agenda to talk through a new signing. It's always an exciting time when we're making these roster moves, and we're happy to have you back on. So welcome back to the FC Dallas Agenda.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Let's talk a little bit about our offseason.
Yeah, the new signing, of course, and we're about to talk about is Joaquin Valiente. We'll get to him in just a moment. First, I want to know how this offseason has been for you. I know it's the busiest time of the year for you and your staff, and yet it can't nearly has been as chaotic as it was this time last year. So how have you found the offseason here in 2025?
Exactly. I mean, you touched the point, Last year for us was a year that we changed it a lot, was a lot of movement, really, really busy. And I think this year, after the first year of Eric, was a year of identify the spots that we thought we could address a new player and make the team better without having to change much, So it's much more, specific movements and not a lot of movements like we did last year. So yes, less busy than last year, but still busy.
Yeah, we were busy early with Herman Johansson, with Ron Benjamin, and with the draft, of course. And I think from that group, we haven't got to see a ton of Herman yet, but it's been Ricky Lewis, who I think undoubtedly has been the standout. When you're scouting him ahead of the draft, looking through all the profiles and all the players in college, could you have expected that he would hit the ground running just, like we've seen him do in preseason? What did you expect from him this early?
Well, we know that the translation from the draft to first team level, it's always like a gamble. It's a lot of factors that impact the performance of a player, but we were very confident that Ricky could come and impact in the way he's doing. And also Nick Simmons. So we had a second and third round pick. We went up in the rankings to get those players because we really think that they can be important additions to the team we believe they can play first team level, and they are showing this to us. Yes, we thought that Ricky could come and impact like he's doing, but it's been a great surprise, because it's always a gamble factor. It's always a lot of, it's a human being. As I said when we brought Kaique, it's a young kid coming to a professional environment, so it's not that easy. But Ricky and Nicky are proving that they can be part of the roster and they can impact from day one. So this is, the perfect scenario for us when you leave the draft with this type of picks.
Ricky and Nicky, I like that duo that we saw up top. And just a few hours ago when we were watching the game against Houston, just a personal question before we get to Joaquin. How exciting is it for you when you've done all the work to bring in a player, they arrive, and then they hit the ground running and they look like they're going to be a success? Like personally, and for you and your staff, how exciting is that?
I think for a scout, and obviously I'm saying this in the name of all the department, it's myself here, but we have all the scouts working with us. It's our goal, in terms of, it's like when a player go to the field and does exactly what we think they can do. Mm-hmm. It's just like, it's our goal. It's when it's like us scoring a goal,
right?
It's when this happens. So personally, it's good, and it's a collective effort of the scouting department that I always like to say that, because it's a lot of people behind working to make the right signs.
And let's get to the newest signing. That's Joaquin. He's a 24-year-old out of Uruguay, an attacking midfielder who we've bought from Defensor. That's one of the bigger clubs in that country. When did he first come onto your radar, first of all, and what were your first impressions of him as a player?
Well, so the South American market is a market that we track, and it's a really important market to MLS. It's Europe and South America, and when it's part of our job to make sure that we know all of the players, most of them, especially the positions that we need, and Joaquin came on this search of this attacking piece. I prefer to say attacking piece. Everyone likes to say a number 10,
right?
But I prefer to say this
in our
attacking
system
piece.
right now, there's not really a true number 10, right?
Exactly. So he's an attacking piece, and what we were looking for, it's this dynamic piece that can glue the team in a way, that we were needing. Someone that can combine, that can arrive close to the penalty box, that can find final passes, that can shoot from distance. But the most important thing, and this is something we've been discussing a lot in our scouting department and inside the club, it's the package of mentality, energy, work rate, and physical profile. And when we say physical profile, people might think size, and It's not about size. It's about
Herman Johansson.
Exactly.
He's got the size.
He got the size, but it's more than the size. It's the ability of run, compete, repeat sprints, be dynamic, has the first push, the acceleration, and we found on Joaquin this package. So this is why I'm saying the attacking piece. He can play 10, he can play winger. We are not playing with a winger right now, but eventually if we need, he can. So yes, this is the player we brought.
And he came through at Defensor. That was the club that he came through as an academy player, where he went on to play 115 games for the senior team, scored 13 goals, provided 12 assists in the Uruguayan leagues and cups. They won the Uruguayan Cup twice while he was there. That league's a little more off the radar, I think, compared to Argentina or Brazil for people here in the U.S. So what can you tell us about that level and how that might help him translate to MLS?
Yeah. Personally, I love the Uruguayan market. It's a ton of competition. It's grit, it's determination, it's effort, you find these attributes there. So the league is about this mentality and this, the football, it's sometimes not that pretty, but it's a lot of running competition, and sometimes you can find good players as well. Players with good technical capacities as Joaquin, but that came with the grit and the physical aspects that we were discussing before. So this league is a lot of that. Maybe if a soccer fan go to watch a game in Uruguay, he'll be, that game is not that beautiful.
Yeah.
But we can say that.
Well, we found some highlights. They're certainly not playing on beautiful fields at times as well. That can't help, I'd imagine.
Exactly.
What attributes specifically do you feel like he possesses that maybe this squad currently as constructed didn't have before?
Well, he's a player with technical capacities. And when I say technical capacities, is the ability of combine, is the ability of finding final passes, shooting from distance, but being dynamic at the same time, like someone that is like kind of shorty, strong, and can move to the right spaces. He's a guy with a lot of energy, so you can see him in all final third moving around. So he's that piece that we hope that can connect our system and can help the guys with this final pass. But we are not forgetting about the energy and the physical piece that he brings.
Absolutely. We saw last year, once it became a full collective effort, 11 men bought into the same idea, how much of an impact that made for the team and the results. Last season, he was on loan at Barcelona, not quite the Barcelona, but Barcelona SC in Ecuador, where we had 5 goals and 6 assists in 38 games, including 10 in the Copa Libertadores. How did you see his game develop as he got that opportunity to play in basically the Champions League equivalent of South America?
Yes, one important thing is like every time that a player moves from his country to another country and adapt and play well, it's a good information. So we know that this player moved from his birth country and adapted. So good information for us. Second thing is Barcelona. It's not the Spanish Barcelona, but still a very big team in Ecuador.
And a lot of players that played in MLS or have gone on to play in MLS have come through Barcelona.
Exactly, and it's a team with a lot of supporters, a lot of pressure, and so this is another important point that he made it there. So he played really well there, and then the Libertadores that you were mentioning. That is a very tough competition. He played in tough environments, and he did really well. Like he showed that he belonged to that level, and this is really important to us because we know that the Libertadores is probably a little bit higher level than MLS. So if the player is adapted there, it gives you the confirmation that if he comes here in our system, the right piece, he can adapt well to MLS.
And lastly, I guess with this move, the club chose to bring in an attacking midfielder or an attacking piece, as you describe him, that doesn't hit the cap as a designated player. So talk to me about the internal strategy behind that and why the front office chose to hold on to that potentially high-impact roster spot with this move.
Yeah, first of all, we need to understand that when we are looking, when you are at the market trying to find a player, we are trying to find certain capacities and attributes that we need for the team, right?
Right.
And this is not a DP, this is not a under 22, a high-time player. In the end, we have needs, and we go for those needs.
Right.
Sometimes you find DPs, sometimes you find players that they don't hit the cap that much, So he was this exactly profile that we were looking for. That is the most important thing, and it's not hitting the cap that much. The winter market for us here, it's not that easy. It's a market that in Europe they are in the middle of their season, so
Champions League, Europa League, relegation battle as well from top divisions.
So it's not easy to find the player that you want and that is available to come right now, right? So holding this DP spot will give us the opportunity to, after World Cup and after the season is done in Europe, to find this DP caliber player that could be any position right now. We'll have the opportunity to see the team adapting on the field, see how those new pieces will adjust in Eric's system, how they will play, and from that we will have the plan for the summer transfer window and a DP spot. So we will be in a very good situation to attack the mid-year market.
Yeah, I think it's been interesting to see how different teams in MLS build their roster, but I think if we just played Houston, they brought Hector Herrera back. not hitting the cap as a DP. We know his qualities, right? We know he can be a DP level player. And I feel like that's really how you have to try and build the roster, is not just around your DPs. You need those. You need them to make the difference for you, as we've seen with Musa here in Dallas. But you also need those high-level players that aren't hitting the cap as a DP. And if you look at Miami, they have about 30 guys that would probably hit the cap as a DP for most other teams. But if you want to compete, you have to have those high-impact players outside of just the high-impact spots. So I think that makes a lot of sense, and we'll be excited to see as the team progresses where that spot could potentially be used in the future. But we'll have you back on then to talk about whoever that new signing ends up being later on. Leo, thank you so much for joining us here on the agenda as always and providing all the insights that you do.
Thank you very much, Ryan, for the opportunity. And yes, look ahead to the season. I'm excited.
Let's do it. Well, thanks to Leo, as always, for the time and the insights. We got to talk through games we've seen on both sides of the Atlantic. First of all, Dallas against Real Salt Lake, 3-1 victory in that one over in Portugal. And that meant a few days later, Dallas were crowned Atlantic Cup champions, so we can go ahead and hang the banner, put the silverware in the trophy case. And the next one that we turn our attention towards is the Torneo de Texas, starting off strong with a 3-0 win against the New York Red Bulls in 90 minutes, 3-2 after an extra 45-minute period. Logan on the score sheet twice in that one, Anderson Julio as well. And then today, following that up, there was a 2-1 loss against Houston taking place on Field 1 on the training ground. A lot more of sort of second 11 type of players, as Steve mentioned earlier, involved in that one, although the starters all did get some minutes towards the end of the game after after the score had already gone technically official. So now 1-1 in the Torneo de Texas, still very much alive for some more preseason silverware, depending on the result on Valentine's Day on Saturday against Atlanta. But let's talk overall takeaways, because I don't think it does us a ton of, I don't think it does us a ton of good to talk granular detail about these preseason games, as players are still getting up to fitness and match sharpness and all of that. But I think we can talk through some of these big things that we've seen, maybe from individuals or from the team as a whole. So, Garrett, I'll throw it to you first for a major takeaway, a stock up, a stock down, wherever you want to take it here to lead us off.
First takeaway is that I'm just really happy that we have live FC Dallas soccer here at home again, and we've been very lucky to have absolutely beautiful weather for both games on Saturday and today being Wednesday. The sun's out, but it's in like the mid 60s. It was a great day, especially Saturday in the stadium with a lot of season ticket members and probably listeners in the stands. It's just a great event all around. But in terms of on the field stuff, my takeaway is that Logan Farrington is just making it impossible for Eric Quill to keep him off the field. Sometimes I think it can be hard for coaches to go with two similar strikers in terms of profile in the same 11 and start both, because they might want to do similar things. It might leave you a little bit light in midfield and whatnot. But Logan has basically made it impossible just by his play. Every time he's on the field, he is incredibly dangerous. This time it was scoring goals. A little earlier in preseason in Portugal, it was creating chances and assists. Today, after the 90 minutes and the last 30 minutes where he played in the unofficial preseason game, it can't get much less official than that. But he looked sharp once again, had a fantastic cross through the back post, and he just has an ability to, kind of like Luka Doncic, to make a little basketball analogy, where he moves slowly. He's not moving quickly, but he just doesn't allow defenders to ever be in balance and comfortable. And he just gets players uncomfortable in the box where it's most dangerous, and he finds space despite not doing 1,000 step overs or moving 1,000,000 miles an hour. He's just a really smart player, and he's getting more clinical and using that ability in more efficient ways now entering his third season. So he's just a phenomenal soccer player, and I love watching that type of unorthodox player play. And because of how he's playing, I expect him to be a nailed-on starter to begin the year again.
Turns out not bad at juggling in American football either. He's just got a good touch. And also, speaking of that, I was on the shoot when he was there with Brandon Aubrey. Spoiler alert, it wasn't a true leak, so to speak. Somebody had to make the kit with Aubrey 17 on the back. But we were there. Also, shout out to Brandon Aubrey, fantastic guy. Grew up playing in the youth soccer scene here locally with Dallas Texans. Made it all the way to a professional level after a career at Notre Dame. And now he's doing well for the Cowboys. So shout out to him. It was great to meet him and spend that time. But Logan was warming up because, he wanted to rise to the moment, as he always does. warming up, trying to juggle the football. Never got really into the double digits at all. Then we turned the camera on, ends in the 20s. And he just, even on little things like that, he's one to rise to the moment, Steve.
He's a gamer, man. He's a gamer.
He's just a gamer. He's a gamer, and we're excited to see what he can bring in year 3. What else have you seen maybe from these preseason games that has really caught your eye?
I tell you what, it seems like every year we have a guy or two that comes out and we say he had a really good preseason. And I think, Garrett just outlined why Logan's having a good preseason. To me, though, I'm seeing like maybe half a dozen guys that I think look pretty good, pretty sharp. I do see some of the younger guys out there that I still think are making some young guy mistakes. That's okay as long as they're not all making them all in the same game. But I'm looking at guys like Dietzen. I think he's showing me something because every time he gets the ball, he's got this real aggressive attacking mindset. And let's go back to when Eric Will said, it's okay to fail, just fail aggressively. So he seems like he fits that profile perfectly. Watching the game today, I think Ramiro is already at his best in terms of just organizing, and he looks pretty sharp. I think Ricky Lewis looks sharp. We talked a little bit about him. The other day in the game, I thought Kappa's playing as at 10. He's making good passes out of there. I don't know that he's got the high level imagination in his game to keep that spot, but as a 10, he's doing okay, as we talked about a while ago. Sam Sarver, he comes into the game the other day, and he does exactly what he does Sam Sarver things. I mean, he's been in the game for 30 seconds. He's already blowing by somebody on the right wing, gets a good cross in. 5 minutes later, he earns a penalty kick. I mean, that guy is having a good preseason. So what I'm getting at here is if you got guys like that are already pretty sharp, and if you look at it, they've got a first month and a half where it's loaded with home games, and the away games, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not looking at it, it's Toronto and DC United.
We got home Toronto, home Nashville, at LAFC, home San Diego, home Houston, at DC.
So what I'm getting at here is I think with a few guys already pretty sharp with a schedule that's sort of loaded over the first 5 or 6 weeks with a lot of home games, and one of the away games early is DC United. Who knows what they're going to look like? They haven't been to the playoffs since you or I have, Garrett, something like that. So I think they have a chance to really stack up some points early. I know that puts a little pressure on, but that's having higher ambition this year.
And real quick, you mentioned the Sam Sarver coming in and doing Sam Sarver things. I think the most iconic Sam Sarver thing that I can think of now is the come in the game as a sub, win a penalty almost immediately, and then look towards the nearest crowd, nearest sideline for the crowd, and immediately start pumping them up and waving his arms. He first did that last year. I think it might have been his debut, coming into a home game and doing that during the regular season. But the fact that he did the exact same thing in a preseason game and still looks to the crowd and tries to get them pumped up in a preseason game, I just love that guy's energy, man. He's so fun to watch. He's an absolute chaos merchant, on and off the field, really. But that is just that's him through and through, and he's a really fun addition to this team.
Yeah, I think, we were talking about it in the press box on Saturday, but the sheer amount of different options that Eric Will has, particularly in the wingback spots, is actually going to be really interesting to see. I mean, there are going to be guys that we think are quality players that aren't even making the game day roster here early in the season when, knock on wood, we have a pretty healthy squad at the moment. So, has Sam and his ability to make an instant impact off the bench meant that he has to be that option as the reserve right wing back, or at least the attacking option as the reserve right wing back on the bench, because we still haven't even seen Herman Johansson really play significant minutes over the last couple of weeks because he had to go and get his visa back in Sweden. He was there watching the game from the sideline today. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets minutes on Saturday against Atlanta United, but that's a player that you brought in most likely to start that's now going to come in at the top of that depth chart, pushing everybody down. And that's still with Giovanni Jesus and Enzo Newman, guys coming back from injuries. I mean, you may get to a point where you have almost 10 players on your roster that you would say they can do a job for us at right wing back. They can do it in different ways. Sam Sarver's going to knock it past you and run by you. Dietzen's going to go at you and try and cut onto his left foot. We think Herman Johansson can do a little bit of everything and get into the final third and make an impact as well. We haven't seen what we're going to get from somebody like Giovanni Jesus when he's back fully from injury. But the strength and depth that Steve mentioned seems particularly strong when you look at the wingback spots, Garrett.
Yeah, which is great because that's probably the most physically demanding position on the field.
I didn't even mention Shaq Moore and Ramiro, who played the entire season in that position last year.
Yeah, last year's starters. No, there is a bevy of options in those positions, which is really good because, like I said, super physically demanding. So you don't want a guy playing 34 games, 90 minutes in those positions. And like you said, Ryan, they're all very different styles. So depending in the game state, score line, the opponent type and whatnot, Eric Quill kind of has his pick to decide, what do I want from this position in this game, in this opportunity, in this moment. And then he can pick his favorite one. And it's really up in the air to see who steals it all. And you kind of mentioned Sam Sarver's qualities. I mean, I really see the vision of him as a wingback just because he's got the attributes to fit that in terms of straight line speed, loves to go at people, but is also super tenacious on the defensive side of things because, you can't be a great attacking player who doesn't have work rate in that spot. You have to, if you lose the ball, immediately sprint back 60 yards to get back into that back five. And we know Sam has a personality to do that, as do a lot of those players we've talked about. So that'll be a super interesting position to watch evolve as the season goes.
I think the same is true on the other side with a less extensive list of players perhaps, but we saw Dietzen play on the left today as well. He played wing back on both sides against Houston today. Bernard, of course, played a majority of last season in that position. And then you've got Ricky Lewis, who also provides just a totally different attacking dimension from that position. I don't know really who to expect to start on game one against Toronto because I think they've all shown in different ways that they could be worthy of that spot. But, Steve, right now, it seems like to me if Eric Quill is going to be bold and trust young players like he has told us he wants to be, Ricky Lewis is making a really strong case to be included in that day one starting 11.
Oh, there's a reason they drafted him number 2 overall. Leo talked a little bit about it, and I'm at a loss. If you made me pick right now, I don't know which one. Bernie's had his moments. That I will say this. It's time for Bernie Mungo. He's going to get pushed this year. It's time for him to really, understand that he's got to elevate his game a little bit. I'm sure Bernie knows that. We all love the story, but he really showed us something last year in adapting to that position. But now he's really got a lot of competition. So it's just time for him to sort of find his feet and be a little bit more consistent, make good choices. He's got the effort. I think he's sort of learned the position now. So another instance of me dancing around the question, Ryan, because I don't want to appoint anybody that I would say would start right now because you said it. There's so many good options there.
Well, not even just whether he's going to be the wingback or not, but we saw. Oh, Garrett wants to go on a limb. I'll let him do it in just a second.
I'll go out on a limb.
He made an impact as a striker multiple times as well today once he shifted up top. He got in behind the Houston backline 3 times, including setting up the goal with some good composure. He got in behind, realized he wasn't going to be able to shoot, so he pulled it back and found Patrickson top of the box who scored. And that was your lone goal in the 2-1 loss today. So he found a way to get involved in both positions. And, I mean, there's no doubt for me he'll be on the roster and he'll probably see the field. But it seems like Garrett wants to say he might be starting at left wing back.
Yeah, well, Steve was sitting on the fence, so I'll just go ahead and jump over it and just throw out a prediction that it will be Ricky Lewis starting at left wing back on opening day. Just what we've seen in preseason, he's just been very goal dangerous from both spots. But I think he has an athletic profile that is incredibly rare. I mean, I can't think of a more athletic player I've seen in an FC Dallas shirt since I've been covering this team in person. I mean, his straight line speed. It's up. Yeah.
True. He did jump over a guy completely.
Yeah, that's
over
fair.
him.
But I think Ricky's got a faster straight line speed and faster acceleration than even Gio, which is certainly saying something. But also, the stamina to get back and forth up that line, and then switch positions and play striker where he's constantly running in behind. So an incredible engine on a really fast guy, which is kind of a rare combination. But even for a young guy who's going through a huge adaptation in terms of the level he has to jump up to, I've just been so impressed with every part of his game so far. And there are still moments of naivety, of course, from a guy learning a new spot in a new team at a completely different level. But I mean, I think sky's the limit for him. I'm so excited about that.
I told you this. I don't think I've seen a player in a Dallas uniform that can ride contact the way that he can. I mean, he is constantly just holding the guy off, bouncing off of a defender, still manipulating the ball with quick feet, getting out of these 1-against-1, 1-against-2 situations. I mean, that is a truly special talent, the ability to solve problems on the fly just with your raw natural ability on the dribble and with the physicality as well. I think he's got the whole package there.
So we're talking about whether or not he might displace Bernie Kalungo on that left side of wingback spot. Is the question maybe we need to ask, is the more veteran player that he might displace, is it Anderson Julio? Is it, we talked about how Anderson Julio isn't, and of course we're talking about a different position now, but Anderson Julio isn't just tailor-made for the two-forward alignment that they're using right now. Is it possible that Ricky Lewis goes over there and sort of displaces him, and that would be as sort of the third striker in the stack?
I think potentially why not both, right? We saw him playing both positions today. I think maybe if he doesn't start at left wing back, he's your first look to the bench to try and bring a spark in either position. And I think that's nothing against Anderson Julio, who we've seen scoring in preseason. But as we've said, at length and at large, it doesn't seem to be the formation and the style of play that suits his game the best. So I think he can be that impact in that position. And also if, Bernard starts, goes 70 minutes and it's 1-1 and you want to bring somebody that has that extra spark, he seems like the perfect guy to bring into that position as well. So I think we'll see him. It'll just be a matter of when and for how long. And maybe we'll get some more clues on Saturday, depending on which group he's with, whether he makes the start or not, as we expect the team to probably be close to full strength, if not, showing a full strength 11 in that final tune-up game against Atlanta. Before we move on to kit talk and the DNA kit and potentially the best kit in FC Dallas history, I did want to say a couple of, stock. We did some stock up. Let's do a little bit of stock down. Some players that maybe I haven't seen a lot from this preseason that I want to see more from, that because I know they have it in them. And the first one I'd go to is Patrickson Delgado. He did get on the score sheet today, which is a good moment for him. But he's just been a little bit frustrating, as we know he can be, as we've seen in the first two seasons that he's been with the club, where he shows you these highlights, these flashy moments, and really right now on the roster, he's the only one that naturally fits into that number 10 position. But there's just been a few too many lapses, and hopefully preseason is the time to get those out of your system. The other one, I'm not gonna even call this a watch or a warning, but Osaze Urguide just hasn't been quite at the top of his game yet. I don't think it's going to be a problem come February 21st, but he has just been a little bit loose with the ball in these preseason games, and maybe he just is trying to calibrate that risk reward playing from the middle of the back three, when to try and make the line breaking passes and when to try and play conservative out to one of the other center backs or to the holding midfielder. Just a couple of things that I've noticed, and I don't want it to all be sunshine and rainbows, as we're not talking about an MLS Cup favorite team here, but we're hoping that we can push on for a good season in 2026. Any other stock up, stock down talk we want to get to before so we get to Steve's favorite, which is Kid Talk?
Sure, I'll give you a couple. I got my first real good look at Ron Benjamin today. I think what coaches like about him is his work rate. I like the way he sort of carries himself in the midfield. He's doing a lot of high level midfield things. He's checking his shoulder often, early and often. He looks like a veteran out there, right? That said, he lost the ball a little too much today, a little too easily. So he needs to sort of, and I think he will. He's coming out of the Israeli league. I think this is a better league. I think he'll get up to speed. He's really good. I saw it, or thought it, is sort of digging a ball out of a scrap, and that's sort of a skill within itself. If you remember, you guys remember
if he's in there with Kayike in midfield, there's going to be a lot of scraps to dig the ball out of.
You guys remember Ja'Cory Hayes? I mean, he had his pluses and minuses, but one thing Ja'Cory was really good at, once the ball got loose in there, he could just dig it out and come away with it. And so Ron, I think, is going to be really good at that. The other one is I thought Nolan Norris probably needs to, pick it up just a little bit. He got beat once today, a little too easily. A little loose with the ball in a couple of different places. So again, he's young. He'll learn. He'll be okay. And we know that he brings other attributes to the game. But what's interesting about when I start talking about sort of Ron and Nolan is that we're picking out we're sort of getting nitpicky here, and that's where the team has evolved from this time last year. Those little things. There were too many big problems last year. Those two little things wouldn't have stood out at all. But now the team is at a place where, if you lose possession a couple of times or if you get beat a little too easily once, it stands out because you just don't see it as much. And so that's the team being in a much better place, I think.
Yeah, instead of stock down, we can call those buy lows, I suppose, for guys that we think are going to continue to improve.
Yeah, I mean, Steve said it there, nitpicking, and that's what I'll do. And you already mentioned the name, and Ryan, Osaze Urugide is really the only player I've seen take a small step back from their level last season, and I think that has to do more with the fact that Osaze was essentially perfect last year, oftentimes kind of being like a one-man wrecking ball, just holding the back line on his shoulders. And this, to begin this preseason, I think he's been a little bit lax with the ball at times, and seen him lose maybe some one-on-ones that he wouldn't usually lose. Not too worried about it. I think that's just part of getting up to speed in preseason. We've seen his level through an entire season, and he played in some pretty strong leagues as well prior to coming to Dallas. So I'm sure he'll bring his level back up to what we expect, which is a very high-level defender. And I'll throw out one other name, and it's not that he's taking a step back. It's just that he's isn't taking the step forward like I would hope, and that's Ka'ike. We've seen really good moments from him last year, and we saw some bad moments from him last year, and we kind of chalk it down to, well, it's his first professional season, only 19 years old, in a new country, new team. I would hope that this year, with that under his belt, he could take that next step up, because I think the guy just has bags of talent, both on the ball, off the ball, in terms of athletic profile, defensive instincts. But we've seen sometimes those defensive instincts have let him down a bit, and just making rash challenges in areas of the field where you don't need to, where you're like, hey man, just contain and hold that attacker up so you can get more bodies in and around you. And sometimes he just wants to win that ball right away. And so I just hope that with some more game time, he can iron those out a little bit, become a little bit more mature in that defensive decision making. Just haven't quite seen that be as common as we'd like to see so far, but still super early, so plenty of time for him to get that right.
There's that iconic meme. It's an old man coming out of a Chelsea game, I believe, where he's talking about N'Golo Kante. He said he just wins that ball back so much, and he's crying. It is so emotional. I think we're going to get a Ka'ike breakout game this year where that happens, and we're just sitting there like, man, he just had 15 ball recoveries in 90 minutes, and he just wins that ball back so much. Because I agree that he has all the talent in the world, and it's just about the risk-reward balance and the understanding of the positional element, and it's coming for him. I'm pretty confident in that. I know the club is as well, with the type of financial outlay that they spent to get him here. And the last thing, I just want to talk a little bit tactically before we move on to the kit, and we'll just keep teasing the kit talk for Steve. But I'm curious, because we haven't seen Shaq Moore as the right center back much, if at all, in this preseason so far. And that was kind of the vision that we had coming into the year, was that Nolan was going to be the left side, Shaq Moore was going to be on the right side, with Osaze in the middle. And watching the team today and how they played, particularly when Bernard Kamungo came on as a right wing back and Josh was playing as the left wing back, they really shift into a makeshift back four in possession. One of the wing backs goes really high. In this case, it was Bernard as the right wing back. He's basically playing as a right midfielder, right winger, and that shifts the right-sided center back out to play right back. Well, when it's Sebastian Ibiaga, who I thought actually had a pretty solid game today, that is a little bit more round peg, square hole, although I think a round peg would fit through a square hole, so I think it's probably square peg, round hole. Then it would be if it was Shaq Moore, who's played his entire career in a back four as a right back, and now we've sort of converted him into a center back. I think Shaq is going to have a huge role to play on the team this year. He's worn the captain's armband multiple times in preseason. He's a big part of the locker room, and I just don't want to see him at left center back if possible. I just think that he's so much better on the right, and it gives the team so much more attacking potential when you have an attacking a player that can go forward. We saw him score and assist last year from the right center back position, while also having somebody that can do the same on the other side. And I know Nolan didn't have a great first preseason game. We kind of talked about that in the live show on Saturday, and we haven't seen him maybe take a step forward, but we saw the level that he can reach in that postseason game, the home playoff game against Vancouver. And for me, having a left-footed player in there for balance and also giving him the minutes to develop is worth the risk-reward of potentially being a little bit more vulnerable at the back. I think if Eric Quill wants to be more attacking in 2026, I think that's the easiest way to do it. And I'm a little bit surprised, Garrett, that we haven't seen more of Shaq Moore on the right side of the back three in preseason so far. And maybe we'll see it on Saturday, and this segment will be lost to history, but that's just what we've seen so far.
you may have lost me to history there. You mentioned tactics, and I shut my brain off. You know I'm a stats and
I
stories
should have gone
kind
to
of guy.
Steve
Steve,
instead.
tactics is about Steve. Steve, please save me.
Yeah, look, for me, Ryan, it's not about tactics. It's just about personnel. If you look at that position on the field, maybe that's the one spot that we look at. Well, besides number 10, that's the spot that you say, hey, maybe they could have one more really able player in there, because I think the reason you haven't seen him more on the right, I feel like I'm sure Eric Quill would love to see him over there too, is just that if you don't have him over there, it's Nolan and whom. So I think that's for me, it's just more personnel related. Shaq's experience in there allows him to play the position. And I think that's just why he's there.
Well, maybe we'll see it on Saturday. Maybe we will see it on February 21st, or maybe we'll just, Shaq will just continue to be a really solid piece at left center back as he was last season. I'm not too worried about it, but I think if the team is going to reach its potential ceiling in 2026, I think we're going to have to see that, and we're going to have to see it work well. And maybe at this point on the training ground and everything that Eric's seen, he doesn't feel confident in it just yet. But I think I'm pretty confident that is also his vision. It's just when is he going to be able to execute it on the field. And that's, I think, a lot of preseason talk. We'll have one more game on Saturday against Atlanta United. If you want to tune in, we're going to be running our first radio broadcast of the year. I think it'll just be me and our producer, Sam Hale, on the call on that one. Oh, Steve just said, I will be there. Okay, Steve is going to be there. That's big from you to make that level of commitment for us, to be there on Valentine's Day of all days against Atlanta United. So tune in. Garrett, what time is that game again? I believe it's noon. Garrett's giving me a smirk. Noon start. Okay.
Yeah, I'll trust
tune in.
Steve on this.
We'll do a quick pregame hit, maybe 11:45, starting on the YouTube channel on the Burncast, as we dust off the cobwebs of that one. But now, as long promised, we're going to get to kit talk. And Garrett, I think you're the one that really wants to gush over this kit. I love it. Steve has just called a timeout and said he is going to leave the chat. But Steve, before you leave, just tell us that you enjoy the kit, and then you can head out.
Oh, it's a good-looking kit. By the way, the tyranny of the kit talk, it's been overrated a little bit. I don't really mind it so much. I don't mind it. I just don't engage in it.
Hey, we only have a few bits, man. We got to keep them going. Rest assured, Steve likes the new kit, but I love the new kit. This one hits home for me. Just quick background: I became a fan in 2005, which was the fresh FC Dallas rebrand, which is when the hoops were first introduced as the club's primary kit and its identity in a lot of ways. So the nostalgia of the kits hits home really close for me. And then when I started working for the club as an intern in 2018, that was the first year of the deconstructed Texas flag kit, which was really the first time the club had gone away from the hoops. So I've been biding my time for this club to go back to the hoops of my childhood.
Welcome back to the hoops era.
And we've finally done it. It's not quite the Where's Waldo red and white hoops. I think they've actually improved in it being red and blue, the club's two main colors. And it looks so nice. It looks so awesome. It looks awesome in pictures. It looks even better in person, as many kits do. And I can't wait for us to debut them in just a few days' time.
Yeah, it's getting close to that time. I'm sure we'll see them on February 21st. For me, this goes easily into the top two, and it's pretty awesome that the top two is the last two that were released. It's the Burn kit, the Legacy kit last year, and then this year the DNA kit, the red and blue hoops. So, whether you want to pick between them or whether you want to just say the best FC Dallas kit and then the best Dallas Burn kit, however you want to do it, however you want to delineate it, I think clearly a return to the identity of the hoops has been, the front office has recognized that that's what the fans want. That's what we want here on the FC Dallas agenda, and is excited to finally be back in the hoop era. I think no coincidence that, the best seasons that this club has ever seen, they're rocking some version of the hoops, even thinking about 2016, thinking about 1997, the trophy winning campaigns that we've had. There's been some horizontal stripes
as well.
Involved, 2010 as well. Good shot there. I love the kit. I'm super excited to get my hands on one. I'm still debating on which player I want to get on the back. Maybe I'll go for a Steve Davis kit. You never know. An FC Dallas agenda kit. We get agenda on the back of it. But all that to say, it's exciting times, and when the kit drops, that means we're right around the corner from the season starting, and the guys are going to be dressed in some nice, fresh new threads. Garrett's got some more kid talk for you.
I was going to say, you're not going to go like Figert 6 or anything like that? You're not going to get the personalized with your own name?
I'm not one for personalized. I usually like to pick like a cult hero type of player. I haven't had one in the last couple of seasons, but if I would have, I think I would have gone for Logan Farrington, maybe Osaze last year. Hopefully not too many of you out there have a Lucho Acosta 10 Inferno jersey, and if you do, I'm so sorry.
See, for me,
But,
the only time I've ever done the personalized kit was the original 2005 home kit from FC Dallas. And I guess it wasn't me. It was my dad giving it to me from like my 11th birthday or something. But that's the only personalized soccer jersey of any kind I've ever had. But maybe I'll have to bring it back. What was it, 16 years later?
I think it doesn't quite hit the same when you're an adult. I'll be honest, it doesn't quite hit the same when you're an adult.
Yeah,
then you go for the
later.
player or the blank back.
I might still do it. It might be a Melser 7 job. We'll see.
Well, you can check Garrett's Twitter if you want to see the OG 2005 Garrett Melser 7 kit.
Team signed as well. Shout out Dan Crook for noticing that Poppy, that Oscar Pareja signed that one. Like, I don't remember him signing it. I do remember Eddie Johnson signing it because he was number 7, and he's like, "Hey, you took my number." But that's the only bit of that memory from over 2 decades ago that I still have. So
I love that. And I love that we get to do this every week as two guys who grew up fans of this club. And we're just around the corner from another season, and we hope the excitement is brewing for you as well, the listener. Of course, we'll be back next week, and next week is predictions. We're going to go over what went right, what went wrong with predictions in 2025, and hope to improve, I think, on some of those predictions with our, what we're expecting to see in 2026. Point totals, Supporter Shield winner, MLS Cup winner, Golden Boot winner, all of those things. So you can probably guess who we're going to say for Golden Boot winner already. But that'll be next week. We expect that to be in and around the normal time on Wednesday. And then we'll be in action for real next Saturday, February 21st. In between now and then, if you're a season ticket member, you can come out to the game on this Saturday against Atlanta United. If not, tune in on YouTube on the Burncast as we get things going for the first time on the radio side in 2026. That's a lot of announcements. That's a lot of FC Dallas talk, and it's the time of the year for it. So thank you so much for joining us this week on the FC Dallas Agenda, and we will talk to you a week from now as we're just about ready to get things going here in the new year.
At Toyota, we don't just build trucks. We build something that's meant to last. That's why the 2026 Tundra is built to tough it out and to take it easy. Built to carry tradition and to make new ones. Built stronger, built louder, built here. The 2026 Toyota Tundra. Built in Texas, driven everywhere. Test drive at your local Toyota dealer or visit Toyota.com today. Toyota, let's go places. Feature availability differs based on trim. See Toyota.com for details.
UT Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas, Texas, where discoveries change lives. The spark of collaboration that fuels bold thinking in our labs. The spark of inspiration that motivates greatness in the next generation. And the spark of innovation that pushes the boundaries of today's care. At UT Southwestern, teamwork and talent combine to fuel discovery, education, and healing. UT Southwestern. The future of medicine sparks here.
Want to hear something incredible? That's Eleanor. Just 10 hours after being born, Eleanor was airlifted to Children's Health and met by our expert team trained in cardiac and critical care. At 4 days old, she received a stent to help her heart pump blood to the rest of her body. And today, she's a happy, healthy 1-year-old. That's incredible. That's Children's Health. Incredible together.
Hello, everybody, from a rain-delayed Toyota Stadium. Sam Hale, your pre-half and post-game host here. Just bringing a little update. Hope everyone enjoyed the edition of the FC Dallas Agenda they just heard there, including an interview with Leo Baldo about Dallas' newest signing, Joaquin Valiente. The rain is still falling here at Toyota Stadium, and we are still in a bit of a holding pattern. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you yet another edition of the FC Dallas Agenda. You can hear it, of course, every almost Wednesday or so. Sometimes if big news comes, we'll bring it up or move it back a little bit. Let's go ahead and get you another edition of the FC Dallas Agenda. This one features an interview with Ryan Figert, the voice of FC Dallas, and FC Dallas head coach Eric Quill. So let's go ahead and enjoy that. And when we have more news, we will come back on the air and let you know. But it is Rain Delay Theater here with another episode of the FC Dallas Agenda.
This week's episode is dedicated to the life and memory of Elizabeth Engel, who played in the FC Dallas girls ECNL program and recently passed away. We're sending all of our thoughts and love to her friends and family in this unimaginably difficult time. Hello and welcome to the FC Dallas Agenda, our third episode here in 2026, and it's another preseason victory podcast as FCD took care of business against a Brøndby side, albeit a Brøndby side that consisted of mostly reserve and youth players. But it was a final score of 5-2, and just because the opponent's quality wasn't the highest doesn't mean it wasn't a lot of fun. So to break it all down, I'm joined by proud Brøndby TV subscribers Garrett Melser and Steve Davis. Guys, have you guys been staying warm back home? The weather's a little bit different there than it is here in Portugal.
Yep, warm for the most part, besides early in the morning and late at night when I'm walking my dogs and doing my best not to slip on the very, very slick sidewalks that are covered in ice and snow and sleet and all that good stuff right here in North Texas. But for the most part, we're staying good. Power stayed on, so that's the main positive.
All of this making FC Dallas' decision to travel into Portugal, into sometimes warm and sunny Portugal, making that decision look pretty smart because training here right now would be fairly ineffective. So good job, good job all.
Yeah, well, and we're going to be joined by Eric Quill in a little bit as well, and I spoke to him about that decision. There's a lot of things that go into why they make that decision, but this year we certainly got lucky, and the weather definitely was a little bit better here. Even though it's not always great here, it's very, very unpredictable. The weather forecasting services have no idea whether it's raining or not at any given point or whether it's going to rain on that day at any given point. And it can get pretty cold, especially once the sun goes down, but not quite cold enough for snow and sleet. So we'll take it here. And then, of course, you can always walk to the beach and enjoy that. So not something available in Frisco. No complaints from me on the weather or the scenes and sights here in the Algarve region. And no complaints with the game, really. We'll get into a few maybe downsides of the performance, but a lot of positives to speak about as Dallas took care of Brøndby at 5-2. Of course, it was mostly a U19 side for Brøndby, so Dallas heavily favored in this matchup for a second straight preseason game that they are playing against a rotated or weak opposition, but it's opportunities to get minutes and fitness and build these relationships and chemistry on the field. And let's take you through first the goal scorers. It was Sebastian Abiaga in the first half from a Christian Kappas corner, and then the second half, another 4-goal flurry. It was Farrington from a Sarver cross, then it was a Farrington bicycle kick from a Patrickson cross. Herman Johansson had his first goal for FC Dallas on a feed from Kaique, and Nick Simmons also headed home for a first goal in red and blue. That one set up by Logan Farrington, who had 2 goals and an assist all told in the second half. For me, he's the man of the match. We'll get into some other shouts for potential top performers in the game in just a little bit, but first let's hear from Logan and his thoughts after the 90 minutes.
Logan, you were part of a big
Hello, everybody. We do interrupt this edition of the FC Dallas Agenda to let everybody know listening on the stream or here in the stadium, if you did not hear the announcement, due to the rain,